Samhain is an ancient Celtic festival celebrated from the evening of October 31st to the evening of November 1st. The festival marks the end of the harvest season and the onset of winter. It's not just a calendar event, it holds significant historical, cultural, and spiritual implications. Historically, it allowed agrarian societies to wrap up their harvest and prepare for the colder months. Culturally, it's a communal celebration featuring bonfires, feasting, and folklore. Spiritually, it's believed that the veil between the living and the spirit world becomes thinner, allowing for special rituals to honor and communicate with the deceased. Samhain has had a lasting impact and continues to be celebrated today in various forms, including as Halloween. It's more than just a seasonal marker, it's a rich cultural and spiritual event that resonates across time and traditions. The roots of Samhain. Imagine you're stepping back in time, way back to the Iron Age in what's now known as Ireland, Scotland, and other parts of Northern Europe. You're part of a Celtic community, and it's late October. The air is crisp, the last harvest is in, and you're gearing up for Samhain. So what's the deal with Samhain? Why was it so important for these ancient Celts, and why should you, as a modern reader, care? At its core, Samhain was the Celtic New Year, a time marker that signified the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter. But it wasn't just about adjusting your seasonal wardrobe. It had three major components that made it a standout festival: agriculture, community, and spirituality. Agricultural roots. Firstly, let's talk about farming. In your ancient Celtic life, agriculture is everything. You're living in an era without grocery stores or refrigeration, so your entire year revolves around the farming cycle. Samhain is like your last call at a bar. It's the signal that the fruitful times are coming to an end and winter is about to set in. Livestock would be brought closer to home, and whatever crops were left in the fields after this point were considered sacrifices to the nature spirits. Community and tradition. Samhain is a huge community event. The villages or tribes would gather, massive bonfires would be lit, and people would engage in games, feasting, and storytelling. If you lived back then, you'd probably know everyone in your community, and this festival would be a way to bond, to share the last big feast before winter scarcity set in. Spiritual significance. Now this is where things get interesting. You, as an ancient Celt, would believe that the veil between the living and spiritual worlds thinned during Samhain. The spirits of the dead could cross over more easily, and communication between the two realms was possible. Rituals and offerings were made to honor deceased relatives and to seek guidance for the coming winter. Fast forward to today, and you'll find that Samhain is still celebrated, though the forms may vary. Modern pagans, Wiccans, and even curious individuals might light bonfires or candles, offer food to the deceased, and maybe even attempt to communicate with the spirit world. Whether you see it as folklore or spiritual practice, the roots of Samhain provide a fascinating look into how humans have celebrated the cycles of life and death for centuries. Imagine you're stepping back in time, way back to the Iron Age in what's now known as Ireland, Scotland, and other parts of Northern Europe. You're part of a Celtic community, and it's late October. The air is crisp, the last harvest is in, and you're gearing up for Samhain. Firstly, you'd be in an area that's now modern-day Ireland, Scotland, or perhaps even farther afield in parts of France or Spain. The Celts were a diverse group of tribes spread across these regions, bound by similar languages, religious practices, and of course festivals like Samhain. In your life as an ancient Celt, time isn't kept by digital clocks or even sundials, but by natural and agricultural cycles. Samhain marks the end of the harvest and the beginning of winter. It's like your New Year's Eve, signaling that one cycle has ended and another is beginning. You might wonder, why late October and early November? Well, it's not random. The date roughly falls between the autumnal equinox and the winter solstice. It's a time when your ancestors noticed that the natural world was going through significant changes, days getting shorter, animals hibernating, trees shedding leaves. It's an in-between time, not just for nature but spiritually as well. Being an ancient Celt, you'd believe that this in-between time makes the veil between the living world and the spirit world thinner. This isn't a spooky Halloween kind of deal. It's a deeply spiritual belief. It's a time to honor ancestors, seek guidance from the spirit realm, and perhaps receive wisdom or prophecies that will help you and your community in the year ahead. On the evening of October 31st, your tribe would light massive bonfires. These aren't just for warmth, they serve to ward off evil spirits and invite good energies. You might also engage in divination practices, animal sacrifices, and mumming, dressing up in costumes, all aiming to protect, predict, and prepare for the future. Samhain is here, the veil is thin, and you're ready to make the most of this spiritual hotline to the other side. What's on the agenda? A variety of rituals designed to establish or reinforce connections with the departed. First up, you've got the Feast of the Dead. This isn't your ordinary potluck. You're setting up a table not just for the living, but also for the dead. A place is laid at the table for lost loved ones, complete with their favorite dishes. It's a symbolic yet sincere gesture to say, hey, we still remember and honor you. As you eat, you'd share stories and memories of the departed, making it feel as if they are part of the gathering. Remember those bonfires? They're not just there for warmth or to keep away evil spirits, they're also spiritual lighthouses. It's believed that the fires can guide the spirits back to the realm of the living for a short while. While you're at it, you might also throw in offerings, maybe some herbs or even written messages, to be consumed by the fire and delivered to the other side. Within your home, you'd likely set up a special altar filled with photos, mementos, and perhaps even the belongings of the deceased. Light candles, offer food, and spend time in quiet contemplation or prayer. The point? You're creating a focal point for your thoughts and energies to connect with your ancestors or loved ones. You'd also have rituals for seeking wisdom from the deceased. Whether it's reading omens in the bonfire's flames or tossing rune stones, these practices aim to tap into the heightened spiritual energy to receive guidance or foresight. Think of it as asking your ancestors for some solid advice when the signal strength is at its highest. Last but not least, there are rituals involving offerings. In outdoor spaces, you might leave food, libations, or other gifts for wandering spirits. This serves as a way to show respect and gain favor. It's almost like saying, we value your presence and appreciate your guidance, so here's a little something in return. Imagine you're standing at a crossroads, 4 paths, each leading to a different celebration. Samhain, Halloween, Dia de los Muertos, and All Saints' Day. At first glance, they might seem worlds apart, but walk a bit down each road, and you'll realize they're more like distant relatives than total strangers. First, take a stroll down the Halloween lane. You'll find a spectacle of costumes, candies, and carved pumpkins. Halloween is essentially Samhain's trendy urban cousin. While it has inherited some of Samhain's eerie qualities, like the fascination with the supernatural, it has lost much of the spiritual depth. You might dress as a ghost or a witch, but the likelihood of honoring your ancestors or contemplating the mysteries of death and rebirth is slim. The focus here is more on social fun and the thrill of pretend scares. Now step onto the vibrant path of Dia de los Muertos. This Mexican holiday is like that artistic sibling in the family who's deeply spiritual but also loves to party. Here you'll find altars laden with marigolds, sugar skulls, and the favorite foods of deceased loved ones. While it may appear dramatically different in its colorful execution, the core principle is the same as Samhain's: honor the dead and celebrate their lives. The key difference is in the expression, a joyful celebration rather than a solemn ritual. Lastly, walk the tranquil and serene path of All Saints' Day. This is where Christianity comes into play. Like an older relative keen on imparting wisdom and tradition, All Saints' Day focuses on remembering and honoring saints and martyrs. Though it replaced Samhain in an attempt to stamp out pagan traditions, the Christian holiday shares the same reverence for those who have passed on. However, it places the experience in a strictly religious framework, devoid of any pagan mysticism or rituals. As the leaves turn and the air grows crisp, Samhain serves as a poignant reminder of the ever-changing cycles of life and death. This sacred day is not just about the spookiness that has been popularized, but a deep-rooted tradition that honors the past while paving the way for the future. Whether you choose to engage in reflective solitude or communal celebration, may your Samhain be filled with meaningful connections to both the seen and the unseen. Take this time to honor your ancestors, embrace the darkness, and prepare for the renewal that comes with the turning of the wheel of the year. Blessed be.